that leads me to finally Joe Rogan, because this is why he's popular. This is because he will put on the Ron Pauls, like today's Ron Pauls, right? Like today's Ron Pauls might be a Robert Malone, or just people who are, they sound different than everybody else, and the mainstream all turns on them. And maybe those people are nutcases, or maybe they're just people who have really good ideas and have read, again, I looked it up, Todd Rose's book, Collective Illusions. He's the one on my show saying, like, maybe your views aren't so minority. Maybe they are majority, just people are afraid to espouse them, right? So it's like Joe Rogan will engage with those people, and he doesn't pronounce them correct about all things at the end. He just has an interview, and that served him very well for all these years until he ran headfirst into the "there shall be no COVID misinformation dispersed in any corner." The mainstream elitist media has dictated as such, and then they came for him, and they failed. But they failed so far. Let's hope the failure continues. But let's start with how it's been, or what you think over the past week, because I know you've been with him. You guys have been doing comedy together. Like, how has he been behind the scenes?
He's been great. I mean, it's really funny because people, people who don't know Joe personally, I mean, and if they don't listen to his show, because I think the people who listen to his show really do know him personally. But I'm sure the people who don't could just see like, oh, he's like, he's a comedian at nightclubs, and he's the cage fighting commentator. But if you talk to anybody who knows Joe Rogan, he is one of the most genuine, sweet, humble people you'll ever meet. And he's a guy who's like, he's done a lot of, he's a very self-aware person, does a lot of like meditating and thinking, and has conversations with a lot of really interesting people. And he knows who he is. I mean, I was really impressed just how, I really admire just how he's handled this whole situation. He was not rattled. Like he's very sure of who he is. He also like, he's a really lovely family. He's got a really great life. I think he's very grounded. So it was great doing shows with him. And I did the podcast that just got released yesterday with him. And yeah, it's like, it's very interesting as you watch the corporate press go after Joe Rogan with no self-reflection about why it is that this guy is so much bigger than you and so much more trusted than you. There's these CNN shows that are like ripping on him with a Brian 20th Stelter. Of the audience. Yeah, Brian Stelter sitting there. Well, why is it that people trust him? And it's like, well, how much do you think you can get wrong before people stop trusting you? I mean, if you really take a step back and just look at the 21st century, what's been handed to the American people, and what, and of course, all the wars that we were just alluding to, these are real people. People have sent their children over to these wars, you know what I mean, who have been killed or maimed or come back, a shell of their former self. People, this is real. There was in 2008, we had the worst economic recession in almost 100 years. After that, they had the Obama administration, disaster after disaster. Then Donald Trump, they're so furious at the system, Donald Trump gets in. And then, a couple years later, you have this COVID regime and lockdowns and restrictions and all of this. This has not been a good opening 20 years to the century. And the corporate press has sold all of these policies. Why do you think it is that trust has evaporated? It makes perfect sense. And they don't even attempt to look in the mirror and go, maybe we didn't really cover the working class and the middle class just getting totally demolished over the last 20 years. Maybe that, it's like they never listened to what was appealing about Donald Trump. And what was appealing about Donald Trump to the working class wasn't, like the things that they'd harp on. Listen to what he said. He said, I'm going to bring your jobs back. Now, he didn't. He never really had a plan for it. He wasn't a good president, in my opinion. But that was the pitch. Like, no one else was even talking to those people.
How can you say that? Because we had record low unemployment. I mean, the economy was booming under Trump. Wages went up for lower. Yes, wages went up for the working class. I just had Jason Riley on, who has a brand new book on this whole thing for blacks, for Latinos. I mean, like, Donald Trump, listen, I recognize his character flaws, trust me. But as a president, when it comes to policy, he actually did do a lot of good for the economy in particular.
Well, There were a couple good things. I mean, I thought the tax cuts were very good. I wish he had gone a little bit further with them, but the corporate tax cuts were pretty drastic, and I think that really did help with the economy. But the problem is that, and this is true all through the Obama years. This is basically true from when Obama took office all the way up till now. Is that the way we've created these, quote, booming economies and had the stock market looking pretty good and even unemployment numbers looking pretty good under Donald Trump, is that we've had record high government spending and record low artificially controlled interest rates.
Spending's not a problem. Not going to argue with you there.
But so what you have in this situation, right, when you have the interest rates being held at like near 0% by the Federal Reserve, is that you have these crazy speculating, because people can't save money. So people on a fixed income get hit. But then you have record high profits in Wall Street. And then you have, of course, record, high profits for the politically connected. And so you can make that look nice on a chart. But look at where the richest counties in America are. They're all right outside of Washington, D.C. and New York City.
That's exactly right.
This is not helping the working class.
That's fascinating. There's so much I want to dissect there. I mean, it started with our discussion about Joe Rogan and why he's getting it. So I'll start there, because whenever you make that, when you made that point, whenever I hear somebody sort of make the point that you should be following Joe Rogan, these sort of the mainstream doofuses who are like, I didn't get it, we're real journalists. They should be following him, or at least questioning why he's so popular in a way that they can emulate, as opposed to just condemning him and trying to cancel him. And I always picture Brian Stelter. I picture him without his shirt on. Walk with me through it, Dave. I picture him without his shirt on, literally gazing at his navel and kind of playing with his navel and like being like, I don't get it. Why would they like Joe Rogan? Why not me? When CNN's a real journalist. That's sort of how I picture it. It's that clueless navel gazing. Hello, open your eyes. Listen to what the American people are telling you. And it's disgusting how they'll use anything to tear you down. And truly, he's kind of an example in how even if you're of the left, because his politics are more lefty, they'll come for you, especially if you're not woke. If you're left and not woke, you can F right the hell off. You're the enemy. And he definitely falls within that category, right? A Bernie supporter who's not woke, done, canceled. A, that's the wrong lefty. B, you have to be woke. C, even if you are all those things, we'll probably cancel you anyway. Right?
Yeah, well, the thing that's really interesting is that the woke stuff, although much of it originated from left-wing thinkers in college campuses, like, critical race theory and stuff like that. But when you see it really being pushed by all of the giant corporations, it's being pushed by the CIA and by the Federal Reserve and by really powerful government institutions. And there's a reason for that. And I think that they benefit very much from left-wing outrage being targeted at, Aunt Jemima or what somebody said one time. Maybe someone made a comment about Halloween costumes or something, really, there's really the outrage of the day. But you don't see them targeting that at record high banker profits. You don't see them targeting that at the declining standards for the middle class and rising standards for the corporate elite, things that the left would typically care about. All of the energy has been sucked up by these really stupid, really minor issues that they blow out of proportion. Who uttered the wrong word once? Instead of just saying the letter, they said the word. Even if you think that's wrong, I mean, on what level do you really place this? And one of the things that's interesting that Rogan is completely open to talking about is real things that never get covered by the corporate press. I mean, we were talking a bunch when I was on the show about how, you have these think tanks that push for military intervention that are funded by weapons companies.
Right.
It's what's going on there? How come you will never, ever see a story about that on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, for that matter? None of them. I don't know. I mean, Meet the Press was brought to you this week by Boeing. I don't know, but I don't seem to see ever see mention of this. So while they kind of try to pretend that this is the fake news on the internet, this is all the disinformation, it's I don't know, from where I'm sitting, there are these really big, important stories that the corporate press is just refuses to cover.
That's really interesting, because one of the things that's amazing about Joe Rogan to me is he's entirely self-made. even when he was like moving up the ranks in the numbers and the downloads, you didn't see him all over Fox News or CNN or anywhere else, accepting profiles, or he doesn't do it. He doesn't do that. Every single download he has, he's earned organically, and it drives the mainstream insane because they can't say the same. It drives them nuts. And I think it drives even some fellow comedians nuts because Trevor Noah, of all people, went for Rogan. He went for him. And National Review did a great piece on this. Charles C.W. Cook just talked about Trevor Noah, just saying this is just disgusting what he did. Rogan defended Trevor Noah when the mob dug up his old comedy routines, which sounded kind of sexist and kind of racist. And this is Rogan's tweet at the time. Too much for 140 characters, but nothing he said was out of line, and he's a funny dude. F the haters, Noah. That's how he responded when Trevor Noah got in trouble. Here's how Trevor Noah responded when Joe Rogan just got attacked last week. Soundbite 6.
What I found particularly illuminating is when he says, I wasn't being racist, I was just being entertaining. No, Joe, I think you were using racism to be entertaining. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying you were trying to offend black people, by the way, but you knew that offending black people would get a laugh out of those white friends that you were with.
He's going after him, Dave.
Yeah, and it's like even this idea of, well, I think he was using racism to be entertaining. It's like, okay. I mean, he's a professional comedian and one of the absolute best in the world. Like, I don't know. Go look at Pryor or Carlin or Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle or South Park or like any great comedy. Like, yeah, okay, sure. They use issues of race and they create beautiful, hilarious moments with it. But the idea that he's actually nobody, including Trevor Noah, believes that Joe Rogan is a racist person.
Oh, yeah.
None
I mean,
of
listen,
them. They're all just posturing.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.